Hey, Shalom Israel, Shabbat Shalom, Happy Sabbath. Welcome to today's Q&A. As always, if you would like to participate in today's Q&A, please send your questions to aochouston at gmail.com. It's ticking right under our names. And if you'd like to participate, please send your questions there. And if we can be heard, please put kind in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from.
Shalom, Yashala, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. May the Most High bless and keep each and every one of you. And in the meantime, while we're waiting for that, how was everyone's week? I know everyone's week was very trying. Shalom, Wonder, Shalom, Shah Shabbat. Hey, Shalom, Fresh Prince Amari. How you doing? How was your week?
Hey, Shalom, Amari, Shalom, morning.
Shalom, Dan the man. Shah Shabbat.
Yeah, man, I see you, man. I see you over there.
He said, yeah, you see me, but everybody don't see me. Shalom, D. Miller. Shalom, Tori Coleman. Shabbat Shalom.
And the man, D. Miller, Tori Coleman, Shalom. Again, brothers and sisters, if you'd like to participate in the Q&A, make sure you send all your questions to aochouston at gmail.com. Hey, where you going, Omari? What college you going to, King?
Shalom, Sister Beverly Pleasures. Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, that's what's up. Got the college going. Yeah, make sure y'all, y'all go to school, stay in school, pick up some trades, go to college, do something.
Those trades, man.
When I was coming up in One West, we got cheated out of that. Yeah, Christ coming back. And the way they was prophesying, talking about the prophecy like he was coming back next week. Y'all don't need to finish school. But they was going to college and had all the real good jobs. So we're not here to tell you that the hell with college and making something of yourself. Make something of yourself. Get a trade, go to college. Shoot, become a professor, do something.
Come.
You understand?
Gabar, Shalom, King.
Shalom, Yedaya. Shabbat Shalom. But still, teach our people, on the sidelines, let them know. But hey, you got to better yourself in this kingdom.
Hey, and the thing about college, man, it's the battlefield. It's a battlefield, man.
All right.
So let's
y'all better get in there and do something.
So let's get into our first question. Comes out of the book of Isaiah, chapter 2. Can you go there for me, Shar? Isaiah, chapter 2. Actually, let me see here. Let me get there because may want you to start somewhere else first, really quick.
What's the question?
I'm gonna get to it. Just go to Isaiah 1:1 for me, really quick, before you go to Isaiah 2. It's a question from Isaiah 2:6. But just read Isaiah 1:1 for me, really quick.
Isaiah 1:1. All right.
Come. Read
Isaiah 1:1. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah.
Okay, so when you're dealing with the book of Isaiah, right? Just like when you're dealing with Jeremiah and Daniel and stuff like that, a lot of these prophets, they prophesied during the time of the kings. So when you read it in the First Kings, Second Kings, First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, like when you read those books, you actually read a big chunk of the Bible because a lot of the prophets were prophesying during those times. Like what Isaiah just said, 4 kings. he was prophesying during the time of 4 kings in Israel, right? So now go to Isaiah chapter 2, because what's going on here is the nation of Israel, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom have their various times. Well, the northern kingdom was basically continual when it came to idolatry, but the southern kingdom, they had times where they had good kings. Then they had times where they had bad kings, like kings that brought them off into idolatry. Real quick before we answer the question, let me get something that happened, because Hezekiah was one of our better kings, but something happened to him. Let me find it. You remember what chapter that is? That's in out of one. I know it's somewhere in Isaiah. Let me see.
It says what?
Well, the Most High was going to kill him.
That he's going to kill who? Hezekiah?
Yeah, he was going to put him to death. I think it was Hezekiah. Yeah, it was Hezekiah. Let me see. I'll find it. It's going to be in the book of Isaiah, chapter 38. Just go to 38 really quick, just to show that, because we just read in 1 and 1 where he was a prophet during these times, right? But let's go to, where he was dealing with Hezekiah real quick. Started Isaiah 38 and 1 really quick.
And that's where I got my the little laces in the Bible. I had it right here at Isaiah 38.
All praises, man. That's the spirit, man.
That's crazy. You were 38 and 1?
Come.
Isaiah chapter 38, verse 1. In those days was Hezekiah sick unto death, and Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, came unto him and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, set thine house in order, for thou shalt die and not live. And Hezekiah turned his face towards the wall and prayed unto the Lord.
Right, so he was told, man, he's going to set your house in order. You're about to die, right? This is the prophet told him. Watch what happened. Go ahead, read.
And said, Remember now, O Lord, I beseech thee, how I have walked before thee in truth and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore. And the Lord, then came the word of the Lord to Isaiah, saying, Go and say unto Hezekiah, Thus saith the Lord, the God of David, thy father, I have heard thy prayer, I have seen thy tears. Behold, I will add unto thee 15 years, and I will deliver thee and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city.
Okay, stop right there. Now you can go to Isaiah 2. So he, like me and the Bonari always talk about, man, changing your destiny. That brother was told he was about to die, man. He prayed to the Most High, reminded the Most High of how he walked. And the Most High gave him 15 years, man. 15 years is a long time.
God.
So that was just to show that, when you're dealing with Isaiah, he's prophesying a lot during this time. And what's going on during this time? Again, we have a lot of heavy idolatry. And because of that, we have it to where the northern kingdom falls to Assyria. However, Assyria attacked the southern kingdom too. They were trying to, but the Most High wouldn't let them take the southern kingdom down. And when you understand Assyria at that time, you can understand certain things in prophecy. Like Assyria is known as a nation of strength, right? They were the Lord's sword at the time. I think I brought this up last Sabbath. And so, there are times you read in the scriptures where it says that Assyrian or the Assyrian. It's not necessarily talking about Assyria. It's talking about someone that has a lot of strength and a lot of power. We talk about the Edomites, man, because they're known as the Assyrians at some time. Not meaning they're from Assyria, but meaning that strength and the power that came with the Assyrians.
The power that they have from the Assyrians.
Right. Because the Most High used them to punish, to punish the northern kingdom, right? And he even, like, again, they came at the southern kingdom at some point, but the Most High didn't allow them to take the southern kingdom down. And so what you deal with in the later chapters of Second Kings and Second Chronicles is you start to deal with the punishment we're going to receive from our idolatry, but also how pompous the Assyrians became. And so the Most High is getting ready to take them down too. And so that's where you have the book of Tobit and Jonah and all that. Like the Bible, it's all in harmony, but you got to be able to unlock it and put the puzzle together, right? Because before Tobit died, he said he heard about the destruction of Nineveh. That means that he was around during that time in the later chapters of Second Kings and Second Chronicles. He was around during that time,
right?
You got something on that, other one?
Also to point out in Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 1, and Isaiah chapter 2 verse 2, and also in Isaiah 38 verse 1, when you look two things. When you look at the book of Amos and you look at the book of Isaiah, this basically was in the same time span.
Contemporaries.
Also, Amos is the father of Isaiah. And people have been reading this, Isaiah 1 and 1, Isaiah 1 and 2, Isaiah chapter 2, verse 1, Isaiah 38, verse 1. And a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, never put 1 and 1 together to make 2. Amos is the father of Isaiah. So just to add that into, put that into y'all notes. Who's Isaiah's father? Amos. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 1. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 2. Isaiah chapter 38, verse 1. That's father and son. But that's all I wanted to add to it. What was the question?
Oh no, we're gonna get to it. Go to
Oh, you didn't get the question. Oh, you didn't get to the question.
Right, Isaiah chapter 2. And you can just start at verse 4.
Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.
Go ahead.
O house of Jacob, come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Lord. Therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the children of strangers.
Right. So this is the prophet Isaiah, right? When you read the top of verse 6, he's talking to the Most High, and he's telling the Most High, therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob. Why? Because they be replenished from the east and are soothsayers. So basically what's going on is Israel, real quick out of one, go to the book of Jeremiah chapter, I'll explain it in Jeremiah chapter 3, right? This is what's going on. This is what they're doing, right? It said, you can start at Jeremiah 3 and 6. It said that they replenished themselves from the east, right? And are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they pleased themselves in the children of strangers. So that right there is telling you what it means when they replenish themselves from the east. They're picking up all these different idolatrous ways from their neighbors, from their neighbor countries, right? From all these various countries that they're dealing with, they're picking up these idolatrous ways, and this is what he's going to explain it in Jeremiah chapter 3. Also, when you read the book of, I think it's Ezekiel 16 or 17, where he calls Israel and Judah a Holabah, and you know what I'm talking about? He calls them the two sisters, Aholabah and Ahola, and Aholabah. That's in Ezekiel 23. And he's always using the women, right? Adulterous women to as a, because remember Jeremiah 6:2, he says he's likened the daughter of Zion to a beautifully and comely woman. So he uses the symbolism of a woman being an adulteress, being in adultery, and he compares that to us, right? The two sisters in Ezekiel 23, he's saying how they showing their breast and they're lifting their skirt, like all this symbolism for spiritual idolatry, right? Spiritual adultery. And it's going to be the same thing what he says here. Go ahead, Jeremiah 3:6.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 6. Thus saith the Lord. Wait, Salah. Wrong. Okay. The Lord said unto me, in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen which backsliding Israel have done?
You see that during the days of Josiah the king. So here we are in the early chapters of Jeremiah, and he's prophesying during the time of Josiah, who, when you read about Josiah, he's in those later chapters of Second Kings and Second Chronicles. He's also spoken about in First Ezra, talking about the Passover that he put on. Josiah was a very, very righteous king. Somebody
at the ripe age of 10.
In his later years, somebody found the book of the law and delivered it to him, and he ripped his clothes because he's like, "Yo, like, we going the hell off? Like, we've been going off. Like, this is our," because he didn't have it. And when he got the book of the law and he read it, he's like, "Oh man," he was remorseful, and he was like, he was like one of the ones that like turned his heart back to the Most High, and he started, cleaning up Judah. And so the Most High basically told him, because of that, I ain't gonna bring this evil destruction in your days. You know what I'm saying? So when he found that, man, he turned back to the Most High. And so again, Jeremiah was in the time of Josiah the king. But go ahead, read.
She's gone up upon every high mountain, under every green tree, and there have played the harlot.
You see that? It says that Israel she hath gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there have played the harlot. When you're dealing with trees and mountains, that's dealing with people. Okay, mountains and trees, that symbolizes people in the Bible, right? Those are biblical codes. You know what I'm saying? We understand. That's why he just read in Isaiah chapter 2, it said that the mountain of the Lord, right? The mountain of the Lord, I don't want to butcher it, roughly paraphrasing, just talking about how beautiful the mountain of the Lord is going to be. Again, that's, mountains and trees are dealing with people. But go ahead, read.
And her path played the harlot. No, it's a lot. And their path played the harlot. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me, but she returned not. And her treacherous sister Judah saw it.
Go ahead.
And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and gave her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredoms that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks.
So, like, on the likeness or the fame of her whoredoms, right? She defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and stocks, meaning stone and wood, the wood and stone, like you read about in Deuteronomy. So again, it's just showing that, the Most High is just showing us through the symbolism that, Israel and Judah, they're whores, man, for these other nations as far as idolatry. So when you read Isaiah 2:6, it's just telling you that they've replenished themselves from the east, right? Real quick, go to Jeremiah chapter, because it'll explain it another way also. Jeremiah chapter 6 and is it 6? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm committed to memory. Let me see, sister. No, go to Jeremiah 2, Salakia. Jeremiah 2. Jeremiah 2, and you can start at verse 11.
Verse 11. And the Lord said unto me, the backsliding.
No, Jeremiah 2 and 11.
Jeremiah 2, verse 11.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 11. Have the nation changed their gods, which yet are not gods?
You see that? Has a nation changed their gods, which yet are no gods? Because again, you replenishing yourself from the east. You dealing with all these things that all this different idolatry. These things ain't gods. The wood and the stone, basically. The stone and the I think he said stock or something like that. Which is just wood. So the Most High is saying, like, has a nation changed their God? Like these idols didn't bring you out of Egypt. Go ahead, read.
But my people have changed their glory for that which doeth not profit.
Right. Those idols don't profit you, man. Go ahead.
Be astonished, O ye heavens, that this be horribly afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Be ye very desolate, saith the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
For my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out censers, broken cisterns that cannot hold no water.
You see that? Broken cisterns that cannot hold water, man. So that we have forsaken the Most High, the fountain of living waters, and hewed out cisterns, right? That couldn't hold water. So we went from the living waters to, trying to replenish ourselves with idolatry and all these other things because we wanted to be like the other nations so bad. And the northern kingdom just went further and further into idolatry. You had the southern kingdom where it's like some kings would be like the kings in the northern kingdom, and then you would have a time period where you had good kings in Judah. But for the most part, we were all just given into idolatry. And so the Most High was like, all right, I got you. So he sent the Assyrians at the northern kingdom, and then he sent the Babylonians at the southern kingdom. So replenishing yourself from the east is just talking about how Israel went into, Judah was dealing in idolatry from, the idolatry from all the neighboring countries that she was around and she was influenced by.
Okay. We got some more on this too.
Come.
Verse 18. And now, what hast thou to do in the way of Egypt to drink the waters of Sihor?
Sihor, that's the Nile.
Right. Or what hast thou to do in the way of Assyria to drink the waters of the river?
See that? Again, you broken cisterns that cannot hold water, replenishing yourself. Because when you drink water, what do? You're replenishing yourself.
Right.
So these prophets are just laying it out there, with different ways to understand.
Right. Even you go also even replenish yourself by even washing yourself.
Come.
And when we go further down, it's going to show that too.
I'm going to say that. I was just come. Verse 22.
Yeah, down there. Verse 19. Thy own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backsliding shall reprove thee. Know therefore and see that is an evil thing and bitter, that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy power, and that my fear is not in thee, saith the Lord God of hosts.
Hey, that's a heavy thing right there. When the Most High says it's an evil and bitter thing to forsake him, and that you don't fear him. That's crazy. That's not a light thing at all.
And we like that today.
mean?
And we like that today.
Con.
We might be following this. We might be following in this walk and believing in this walk, but we have our people cherry picking their sins.
Mm-hmm. Con.
So that's doing the same thing, following after other guys. Because remember, sin is of the other nations. When we read about sin, when you go back in Leviticus and Deuteronomy,
Con.
it tell you it was the way of the Egyptians. It was the way of the Philistines. It was the way of this people. This sin, don't do this. You're following after the sin of these people. So basically, when we cherry picking our sins, we still going back after the ways of Samaria. We're still going after the ways of Egypt. We're still going after the ways of the Philistines. So no matter how you look at it, you're still going back following after. You're going back drinking water from broken cisterns.
Okay.
I'm gonna read down to 22, 23. For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidest, I will not transgress.
Right. When he says broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, it's talking about how he delivered us out of the hands of captivity. You know, when you deal with the time of the judges and all that, and the time of Egypt, you know what I'm saying? When we prayed unto the Most High, he came and delivered us. He sent saviors to deliver us. So that's why he said, of times of old, I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands. Man, he took us out of slavery, man. We prayed unto him.
Right. When upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest and played a harlot.
Again, that's talking about the nations, man. Talking about the nations. Hey, 144, the boogeyman. What are you talking about, brother? That brother's alive and well. He's pushing in truth and sincerity like you should be doing.
Right.
Nothing with it.
And Shalom and Ashar Shabbat to you too.
To you too, right? Brother just kicking the door, man, waving the 4-4, man, like niggas. Right. Brothers just come in shooting, man, like no hello, no hey, Shalom out of one you. Like, yo, we your brothers too, man.
Basically. And the funny thing is, just to let y'all know, the general is actually sitting on here watching. Because after we finish, he calls us and he talks to us about it like, yo, for real, they really said this. Yo. So just because you don't see him, that don't mean he's not there.
And you know, just to kind of land me back again off that, yo, man, Hashar is not some like some zoo animal, man, that you just put in a cage, man, and look to, right. You know, look to like, oh, look, he's in the zoo. Nah, man, he's a man, and you know, he appreciates his privacy and he follows the Most High while you're Howard shy, you know, and just like we all do, man. So you got to stop. Y'all brothers got to stop doing that, man. Like,
yeah, making
this animal.
The way you pose your question without sending any peace and blessings is like you think like we kidnapped them and have them tied up in a closet somewhere and take them to AOC.
Like we ran them off or something.
But it's all good. He's alive and well. It's some of us in AOC have the privilege to speak to him more than others. That's all. But he'll be making his debut out here on the big screen eventually.
The funny thing is he has. He
been on here before. And the funny thing is he's been on here a few times and nobody was on here really. It was about like 5 or 6 people at the time he came on here and showed his face. Okay. And he's not a man of exposure. He like to take low. He don't like to always be in the front lines of everything. And courtesy of us brothers, it's due to us because y'all seen some of the videos that he did out there in camp because he didn't want us to record them and he don't want us to record them and he never really wanted us to put his videos up. He's private like that. You catch him teaching. That's how he always been. And I known him since I was 9, 10 years old, and he always been like that. So you're not gonna get nothing different out of him. So it is what it is. but we're going to go continue on.
Okay.
Verse 21, Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 21. Yet I planted thee a noble vine, holy and right seed. How then art thou turned into a degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me?
Mm. Strange vine, again, replenishing yourself from the east, making yourself strange, dealing with idolatry, a strange vine. Go ahead.
For though thou wash thee with nitrate and take thee much soap. So now you have the nitrate, you have the water mixed with lye when you look this up. So you washing yourself with water and lye and you using much soap to clean yourself. Yet thine iniquity is marked before me, saith the Lord power. How canst thou say, I am not polluted? I have not gone after Balaam, and see thy way in the valley. Know what thou hast done. Thou art a swift dromedary traversing in her ways.
Ooh. You know what a dromedary is? When it says, because when I read this, I had to really study. I'm like, what the heck? What is he talking about? When it says, thou art a swift dromedary traversing in her ways, right? That's talking about, it's like talking about a dromedary is a camel, and it's talking about,
That's the female camel.
right, a prancing around in heat.
Right.
That's what it's talking about here, right? And watch what it says in 24. Go ahead.
As a wild ass used to the wilderness that snuffeth up the wind at her pleasure.
Right. Again, a wild ass meaning a donkey. This is a female donkey sniffing for a man, like for a male donkey, because she in heat. That's what it's talking about.
It's sniffing up the wind.
Right. Go ahead.
She snuffeth up the wind at her pleasure. In her occasion, who can turn her away? All they that seek her will not worry themselves. In her month, they shall find her.
So again, that's again replenishing yourself, replenishing ourselves from the east, man. Dealing with different doctrine, different idol worship, man. He Most High used broken cisterns. He used a strange vine. He's used two animals, a donkey and a camel. He's just using all this symbolism to show like how fast we were being at. We weren't pure virgins unto him. We were whores, we were harlots. So that verse in Isaiah 2 and 6, it grows legs because all the prophets talk about it, replenishing yourself from the east. So let's see here. We got a question where brother says, brethren, should we give alms to any brothers and sisters who are needy and poor, or only to those who are acknowledging the Most High and keeping the laws? That's a good question. I'll let you have that one first, Yar. I got some scriptures. Let you have it first.
Take the first bite.
Yeah, that's on you, man.
Yeah, I get it. Know who thou doest good unto.
That's one of the scriptures I was going to go to. But I was reading somewhere. You can finish, but I was reading somewhere that let me know something else also. So go ahead.
Right. Now, with that there, if you know a person is out there smoking crack, shooting heroin.
There you go. Use discernment.
Exactly. You're not going to give that man or that woman no money. You're not going to give him $30 and $40 for a shirt, pants, and some shoes, something that that you can use, and you know it costs a good grip, and you can get that whole set for $40. What you gonna do with that man going buy that crack, or that woman go buy that heroin, or go buy that cocaine, angel dust or whatever, and next thing you know, just off your money alone, they go get high and die. You have committed murder. And you also, and if they don't die in that manner, you forward in their affliction.
Okay.
Now, if you want to buy them something to eat, which I have done, hey, you hungry? You want something to eat? Nah, I just want to make a few dollars. Nah, bro. Oh, you got some of them that even be honest, like, yo, I need me a drink. I don't got enough money for no drink. We all drink, so you know what? Take the man to the liquor store, buy him something, buy him a little pint. Take him in the store, buy him a beer, buy him a good beer. Don't buy him no damn hurricane lightning and tropic thunder, and take him in a liquor store and buy him a bottle of Cisco. Buy him something decent.
I'll say it like this, man. The brother Daniela said, from being from New York, I offered to buy them food instead of giving them the money. In Jersey, I made the mistake of buying them food and not taking the receipt back, and they returned the food for the money. I'll tell you like this. I work in downtown Houston, and if I have it, I always buy homeless people food if they ask, right? One time, I bought a homeless guy some food because he said he was hungry, and he tried to trade it for something. He tried to get something like a cigarette or something from a guy, and he was going to give him the food. And the brother was like, "Oh man, that brother brought you that food, and you're going to go out here and do like that, man? I ain't giving you nothing, man. You better go eat that food." He didn't really want the food; he wanted the money. But I'm always gonna, always, I'm not going to give him money. I'm going to buy them food, right? But here's a scripture right here that I hold near and dear to, because when you read in the book of Tobit, Tobit is like the book of alms, right? Like he talks about alms in the book of Tobit, right? Tobit tells Tobias about giving alms, and he tells him about it. Like he keeps it in his speech, and this is what he says. I'm gonna start at Tobit chapter 2, verse 1.
Hold on, before you go there, right? I just want to address one statement, one. Give to the godly man and help not the sinner. We got to remember we all sinners. So now that's like a catch-22. We can't help each other. But now if a person out there smoking crack and they're a big time crackhead, dope fiend or whatever, of course you're not gonna put no money in their hand.
But look though, how about this though, Chief Priest? Give to the godly man and help not a sinner. Is that not dealing with willful sin? Because a lot, like you said, you see somebody out there that's just smoking crack and stuff like that. There's a lot of our people that willfully sin. Right. Even amongst the faith, like a lot of people that just you're willfully sinning, and you know that, like you shouldn't be doing it. So that's what I take that as, talking about willful sin.
Right. But you're not going to help them. You're not going to help them out financially, giving them money.
Oh no.
You're going to feed them. Feed them, give them something to drink.
Okay.
And you give them something that they can't return.
Okay. Like the brother just said, man, you take that receipt, make sure they don't. Because again, man, like, listen, you can look at our people and say, man, that person's on drugs, man. Like, hey, you got $1 for the bus, but I know you're not trying to get on the bus, man. You're trying to go buy drugs. So what do I look like?
Run that game in Houston? They run that game in Houston?
Yeah, man. They run. I had an Edomite lady tell me downtown the other day, can she get some money for the bus? She's trying to get to a funeral. I'm like that?
You tell me nobody can give her a ride?
But here's the funny thing that they don't understand that we know, right? In Houston, you can get on a bus and they can't kick you off. You just get a free ride. They cannot make you get off the bus.
Same here in New York.
Right. They can't make you get off. Like, because a lot of that money comes from the government anyway. So just get on the bus and stay on the bus. They can't make you get off. So, but again, you got to save our people from themselves. Like, they on drugs. I'm not going to give you no money, man. If you're hungry, I'll go buy you something to eat. That's cool. But I know you're on drugs. I'm not going to give you money to destroy yourself, I'm going to start at Tobit 2:1. It says, Now when I was come home again, and my wife Anna was restored unto me with my son Tobias in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks, there was a good dinner prepared me, in the which I sat down to eat. And when I saw abundance of meat, I said to my son, Go and bring what poor man soever thou shalt find out of our brethren, who is mindful of the Lord. And lo, I tarry for thee. So he said, go find some of the brethren that are mindful.
What chapter is that?
That's Tobit chapter 2, verse 2.
Okay.
Find our brethren who are mindful of the Most High. How are you mindful of the Most High? And that right there goes into the next question that somebody asked us. The Bible is beautiful, man. Go to Revelation 22:4.
Revelation chapter 22, verse 4. And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no might, there should be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light for the sun. For the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever.
Right. So again, when you say, his name on foreheads, again, that's being mindful of the Most High. That's not his literal name on your forehead. What is inside of your forehead? Your mind. And how are you mindful of the Most High? By keeping his law, statutes, and commandments. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 6 real quick out of 1.
What verse?
Deuteronomy 6, and we can start at verse 6. Now I know there's a spiritual and a physical to a lot of these verses, right? Wisdom is double to that which it is. So you can start at verse 7. Deuteronomy 6 and 7. You can start there.
Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 7. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand, and they shall be frontlets between thine eyes.
So there's a spiritual and physical aspect to all of that. What's between your mind, man? Frontlets, your mind. So you're mindful of the Most High. Go to Ezekiel chapter 4. I think it is. Is it 4? It might be 9. It might be Ezekiel 9.
This says what?
Set a mark upon them.
9 and 4.
Yeah, 9 and 4. Yeah, I was thinking of 3 and 4, but it's 9 and 4.
Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4. And the Lord said unto him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all their abominations that is done in the midst thereof.
Right. Set a mark upon their forehead. That's not a literal mark. Just the Most High taking names, man. Marking the attendance,
Good. And to the others, he said in mine hearing, Go ye after them through through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary, that they begin at the ancient men which were before the house.
Um, I knew Cherokee how to read Chashar. You got to purify yourselves in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
That's a good one.
You got to do that first. Nah, if you got something, man, send something to the email. If you have something,
Email.
right? Email brothers. Or put it in the comments or something like that. Again, the brother watches the Q&A. You got something to say. you know, um, so. Yeah.
Shah Shabbat, Alpha Omega Clan, Chicago Zealots in black.
I'm gonna start doing like they do on The Walking Dead. I don't know if y'all ever watched that, but that season with Negan, everybody was like, they were looking for Negan. Everybody was like, I am Negan. I'm gonna start doing that. So I'm gonna start doing that when people ask me that. So next question is from the brother Dan the Man. He said, what exactly were the living arrangements in polygamous marriages? For instance, how did a man divide his time and pleasurable affection with 7 wives?
Well, the number 7 is completion. So
right, just means completion.
The number in numerology, number 7 is completion. So therefore, a brother could have had 2 wives. Brother could have had 7 wives. Brothers could have had 1,000 wives. So basically, how time actually was split up. You got to remember, marriages in ancient times, it wasn't about sexual pleasure. It wasn't. It was nowhere near about that. So basically, remember, marriages was basically, it was a community thing when it was more than one wife. So one wife was able to cook, but if that wife didn't know how to cook like that, I mean, she probably didn't know how to sew, but she knew how to cook. So therefore, we found another wife that was able to do what that wife was missing. And remember, the wife that sold in the ancient times, she was what? She was out there selling. She was out there selling her tapestry. She was out there selling cloth. She was out there selling clothing. The other sister, she probably was out cooking, selling food and cooking food. She could have been another wife could be taking care of the flocks that they had at ancient times. So basically, it was a whole community thing. It was not built so much up on sex, what they call sex. Because the word sex is a Latin word for sin. And make sure write that down. The word sex is a Latin word for sin. So basically, to correct myself, lovemaking wasn't the main thing and the main thing at hand to have more than one wife.
Well, here's my answer to that question.
Oh, and also, not to cut you off, and also when you go into Leviticus, remember, a man ain't supposed to see another man's wife. Nobody's supposed to see a man's wife nakedness. So therefore, them wives wasn't walking around topless around each other and all that, because each one of those wives was that man's nakedness. So no, they all didn't sleep in the bed with him, and they was having threesomes and orgies. It wasn't working like that. It was that those are the ways of Egypt. So
some of our wicked forefathers and foremothers may have operated in that.
They may have done it, but remember, those were the ways of Egypt.
No, they were, because when it comes to wickedness, you can't put anything past Israel. Because We brought all sorts of wickedness. But here's my answer to the question, because it's funny. Like I see people, a lot of women post this, and I just think it's funny. How is a brother? Can you satisfy all five of those wives that you have? And they say all sorts of crazy things, right? But here's the thing. I'm gonna go back to something that King Solomon said, right? This is Proverbs chapter 30. I'm gonna start at verse 18. It says, "There be three things which are too wonderful for me, yea, four which I know not." Right? It says, "The way of an eagle in the air." So he was amazed by, or the way an eagle is in the air. Like, dang, like, how is it able to, just glide and stuff like that? The way an eagle flies and stuff like that, right? The way of a serpent upon a rock. The way of a ship in the midst of the sea, and the way of a man with a maid. So it's like, that's not my business. You know what I mean? Like, whatever a man does with his wife, if it's not breaking the law or anything like that, if he got 3, 4 wives and it ain't breaking the law of the Most High, he's not beating on his sisters and all these terrible things that you see that men do, it's not my business. Whatever works for that man in his house, that's what works for them. And I think Israel, we all need to get in that mind frame. I'm not casting aspersions on the brother that asked the question. I'm just simply saying, because we see this a lot in the community, like people worried about other people's households. Like, listen, they're not in sin. The brother not sinning, the sister's not sinning. Then, hey, that's none of my business, right? You said touchy subject. Why not speak in Hebrew? Because guess what? Hebrew is in a lot of our first languages. So just like the time of Pentecost, time now, there's no language where the Most High isn't heard, right? So some people speak in Hebrew, some people don't. You know what I'm saying? But we're not going to go around speaking in Hebrew the whole time. It's better to prophesy, right? So,
My favorite subject. Sister Cherokee. Shalom. Mashamka. Athatawab or La'atawab. I would like for you to answer that for me. And we can wait a couple of minutes because we got about another half an hour left. Oh, even Daniela asked the same question. You asked how come we don't speak, we're not speaking in Hebrew. And I bet you some of everybody on here didn't understand what I said. There's some nice crickets there, Wonder Warner. Or better yet, Cherokee, do you know who is Shagayaryum Shah Yahweh Shai? Now let's get Isaiah chapter 28, verse 9 and verse 10. This is why we don't speak to the people in the Hebrew. Condemn the man, the water.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 28, verse 9. Whom shall he teach knowledge?
So that whom is the Most High. So who is the Most High going to teach knowledge? Go ahead.
And whom shall he he make to understand doctrine.
So now what is a doctrine? A doctrine is a body of principles. Go ahead.
Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
To be weaned from the milk and drawn of the breast, meaning what? Becoming like a child. Go ahead.
For precept must be upon precept.
Go ahead.
Precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little.
Go ahead. Verse 10.
For
verse 11.
For stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people.
So now, Isaiah said, for with stammering lips and another tongue, he's going to speak to this people. So our people, the 12 tribes, we speak many different languages. We understand many different languages. Over here on this Q&A here, on this live stream, it's predominantly people that speaks what? English. You got Israelite congregations where they do videos in Spanish because why? You have some Israelites that don't speak English or don't understand English too well. So it says, with a stammering lips and another tongue, he shall teach this people. Now let's get one more scripture. Let's get 1 Corinthians 14.
What does holy mean, sister?
No, before we even answer that, answer the question that I asked you.
You said 1 Corinthians 14?
Come
on.
I asked you a question in Hebrew. Well, I asked you a complex question. And I gave you the two answers to the question in the Hebrew. And a brother, Daniel Timothy, in the comments, asked you the same question. But I asked you the question in more detail. Now, you got people in here that probably don't speak a lick of Hebrew or understand a lick of Hebrew besides Shalom and Kun and La'ah. Those three words.
She said she wasn't paying attention.
I bet you wasn't.
That's very insulting to come on a Q&A and put questions in the chat but not pay attention. Oh man, Israel.
Cherokee. Ata anya la'a yadai. Now, 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 2.
1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 2.
Actually, start at verse 1.
Follow after charity and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that ye may prophesy.
So Paul said, follow after charity, desire spiritual gifts, but rather that you prophesy.
He is trying to teach you something, but you just admitted that you're not paying attention.
You ain't paying attention. Well, you're doing a bad job not to come on here to troll. So go ahead.
But rather that ye prophesy. For he that speaketh in an unknown tongue speaketh not unto men, but unto the Most High.
So basically, what I said unto you in the Hebrew, and the brother Daniel Timothy, if you scroll back up, what he said to you also in the Hebrew. And the last sentence I said to you with your name in the middle of it, you ain't understand a word you said. So basically, it's like me talking unto the Most High. Read on.
For no man understandeth him, howbeit in the spirit he speaketh mysteries. But he that prophesieth speaketh unto men to edification and exhortation and comfort.
Yeah. Now go to verse 4. Straight to verse 4.
He that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself.
So me speaking to you in Hebrew, like I was doing, I was basically speaking to myself. When I asked you a question, you come back minutes later talking about you wasn't paying attention. Not only that you wasn't paying attention, after you said that you wasn't paying attention, I said something else to you in the Hebrew. And that's a good question, Sister Beverly. She says, "Excuse me." Every time he opens his mouth, we are taught. So go back to verse 4.
He that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself.
So he that speaketh in an unknown tongue edifieth himself. Go ahead.
But he that prophesieth edifieth the church.
But when you prophesy, we edify in the church, and that's what we're doing. We edify in the church with the prophecies of the scriptures. Go ahead.
I would that ye all spake with tongues.
Paul said he would rather for all of us to speak in tongues. When you're speaking in tongues, what are you speaking? You're speaking in other languages pursuant to Acts chapter 10. No, excuse me, Acts chapter 2, verse 1 to verse 12. During the time of the Feast of Pentecost. Go ahead.
I would that ye all spake with tongues, but rather that ye prophesied. For greater is he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues.
So as great is he that prophesied than the person that speaks in tongues. Go ahead.
For greater is he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues, except he interpret, that the church may receive edifying.
Right. And now what I asked you, sister, the very first time when you wasn't paying attention, I asked you, how are you doing? Are you good or are you bad? And then when you said you wasn't paying attention, I turned around and I said, Anya. No, I said Atha, Cherokee, La'a, Yadai. I said, you, Cherokee, you don't know. Meaning and saying that you don't know a damn thing, you just coming up here running your damn mouth and not paying attention. And I'm trying to be calm and cool and collective as I possibly can. Shalom, Iron Lion 144.
But yeah, you know,
we can move on out of one.
Gun. My thing is you know, everything has to be done decently and in order. And you know, if you can't just come on spewing questions, you don't even allow one question to be answered before you start asking another one. You know, because one of the questions where you said, how do we keep the Sabbath day holy? Like, that's a good question.
And right? That was the first question she should have asked.
It's a beautiful question, right? And so, because here's the thing, right? When you're dealing with the Q&A, right? The Q&A is very, very elementary in the sense that, you know, we're not on here going over the Hebrew and different stuff like that, but there is a time and a place for such activities, right? You know, like you'll get that amongst AOC. You'll get a time and a place where we're learning the Hebrew and we're speaking the Hebrew and stuff like that. But we also have times like today where it's like, for the most part, we have very elementary topics that we speak about. You know, we may have a little meat here and there, but for the most part, so it's a lot of, you know, beginner topics that we go over based off of the viewership that we have and the questions that they ask, right? Oh. And so, I understand that there's a delay in the message. I absolutely do, but
yeah, that's not a problem.
when you came back, though, sis, you said something about the Sabbath day. That was a question that you asked. And had you been paying attention,
And that was the first thing you should have asked us.
right? So but I like that question. So let's deal with that question, right?
But
Go to
before we get that question, right? Get Matthew's let's see. Because we're talking about vulgarity, right? Yeah, I did. I did went off on a tangent. I said a few things. Yeah, it got up under your skin.
got your attention.
Go to Second Samuel chapter 16 and let me see. Second Samuel chapter 16, verse. I believe it's verse 5. Yeah, Second Samuel chapter 16, verse 5.
This is 2 Samuel chapter 16, verse 5. And when King David came to Baharum, behold, thence came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gerah.
Uh-huh.
He came forth and cursed still as he came.
Right. So now this is a man who came looking for David. And he wanted to stone David. So they said he came cursing at David. Go ahead. Now you're gonna see what a curse is, you're gonna see what vulgarity is. Go ahead.
And he cast stones at David and at all the servants of King David.
Go
And
ahead.
all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. And thus said Shimei when he cursed, come out, thou bloody man, and thou
Right.
man of Belial.
Right. So now he was called a bloody man, and he was having stones thrown at him. He was going to be stoned to death along with the men that was with him. And he was called what? A bloody man. That is vulgarity. That is profanity. Let's get some vulgarity and profanity from Yahweh Shai. Let's see what he called Herod. Let's get Luke chapter 3 and verse 31.
This is the book of Luke, chapter 3, verse 3. You said Luke what? 3 and what?
Luke 13 and 31.
This is the book of Luke, chapter 13, and verse 31. The same day there came certain of the Pharisees, saying unto him, get thee out and depart hence, for Herod will kill thee. And
Right.
he said unto them,
This is when Herod was threatening to kill Yahweh Shai again. Go ahead.
and he said unto them, go ye and tell that fox, behold, I cast out devils.
So now what is a fox? A fox is a dog. So Yahweh Shai called Herod a fox, called him a dog. That's using profanity. That's calling some using vulgarity towards someone. Go ahead.
Go ye and tell that fox, behold, I cast out devils, and I do cures today and tomorrow, and the third day I shall be perfected.
Right. So he said he's gonna do cures today and tomorrow, and the third day he's gonna be perfected. Meaning that what? He's gonna die. He's gonna die for the sins of Israel at that point in time, and he's gonna cure us from our sins. And then the third day when he raised, he's going to be perfected. So that is a way, those are the ways of using profanity. That's ways of using vulgarity in scripture. What you got? I don't want.
Oh, no.
You was going to Isaiah. You was going to Isaiah 8 and 13 about the Sabbath day.
Oh, 58 and 13. Kind.
No, to answer the same sister's question.
Because
which that we didn't leave nothing to fall on deaf ears, or should I say blind eyes, because we read the question that she had, but I wanted to address the stupidity that spewed at her fingertips. I don't know, Satan jumped in you for a quick second, and then once I start rattling you, Satan got up and said, "Oh, gotta go."
Here's the thing, real quick. I do have something on that, right? I got a couple scriptures, right? The first one, I'm gonna go to the book of Revelation, right? Revelation chapter 1 and verse 15. It says, "And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters." So we're dealing with we're gonna get to that, sis, but right now we're addressing your folly. When you deal with Yahushua having a voice of many waters, right? Why is that? Why did it say he had the voice of many waters? Right? So now let's go to Luke 19 and 21. This is why it says that. This is the book of Luke, chapter 19, verse 21. "For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up that thou layest not down, and reapest that thou didst not sow." So it's like, Yahushua is austere. And so when you're dealing with men of the Lord, we're going to have that type of austerity, right? So it's like you just said, I feel like you are pulling up scriptures and not getting to the point. Here's the crazy thing about that, right? Because the brother asked you a question and you readily admitted that it intentionally and on purpose that you just wasn't paying attention. So you asked a question, didn't pay attention, then you came and asked another question. So my question to you is why do you think that we should just be so ready to answer your questions when you don't pay attention? Because if you're fully aware of Yahweh, if you're fully aware of the Most High, then how do you not know what sets people apart on the Sabbath? How do you not know those things? You say you didn't come here to troll, so it's like, why come and ask a question if you already know the answer to that question? Because again, we deal with a very elementary crowd, like a very, we have, for the most part, our viewership is beginners, right? And so we try to get their questions answered, right? But you saying, now you're getting offended. "Oh, I'm fully aware of y'all." Okay, so why don't you know what sets you apart on the Sabbath day? Holy means to be set apart, right? Go to Isaiah 58 and 13 out of 1. The Most High, the scripture says, "Let all things be done decently and in order." Do you feel like you've been decent and in order? I don't think you have, right? Isaiah 58 and 13. Read what you got.
Isaiah chapter 58, verse 13. "If thou wilt turn thy foot away from the Sabbath, from doing thine pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord, honorable, and shall honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasures, nor speaking thine own words. Then thou shalt delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father, for the mouth of the Lord have spoken it."
Now let's go to the book. Let's go to the book of Nehemiah, right? want to say chapter 13. Yeah, let's go to the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13, verse um where are we? Oh, 13 and 15. Let's go there. Let's
What, Nehemiah 13 and 15?
yeah, we can start at 15.
Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 15. In those days saw I in Judah some treading winepress on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves, and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, all all manner of burdens, which ye brought unto Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And
Right. So they're working on the Sabbath day. They're working in the things they're doing, trading a wine press, figs, um, wine, grapes, laden the asses with all these things. You know that they're looking for what? They're looking to get gain by doing these things. So they're working and they're looking to get gain with these things that they're doing, right? Go ahead, read.
I testify against them in the day where they were the day wherein they sold victuals. There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, what evil thing is this that ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus, and did not our God bring all this evil upon us and upon this city?
Mm-hmm.
Yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath.
Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem begin to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut, and charged that they should not be opened until after the Sabbath. And some of my servants sat at the gates, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day. So the merchants and the sellers of all kinds were where lodged without Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified again against them, and said unto them, why lodge ye about the wall? If ye do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth, they came no more on the Sabbath.
Right. So one thing that sets you apart on the Lord's Sabbath day is no working for hire, right? No buying, no selling, no working for hire. Um, because those things we're commanded not to do on the Lord's Sabbath day. Not doing your own pleasures, not buying, not selling, not working, right? Let's get something else. Go to the book of Exodus chapter 16, verse 23.
Salak, Ambassador Daniel Allah made asked a great question. So how haven't you discovered how to keep the Sabbath holy if you're fully aware of the Yah? Hmm. And then you just don't bother with AOC when you don't when you on leisure time and don't know what you're doing. What scripture was that again?
Um, that's going to be Exodus chapter 16, verse 23.
Exodus chapter 16, verse 23. And he said unto them, this is that which the Lord hath said, Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seethe that ye will seethe, and that which remaineth overlay up for you to be kept until morning.
Go ahead.
And they laid it upon till the morning, as Moses bade, and at and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein.
Right. So when you dealing with um when you're dealing with the Sabbath being set apart, right? That's dealing with the fact that we don't cook on the Lord's Sabbath day either, like that. No buying, no selling, no cooking, no cleaning, no work for hire. Um, Part of being set apart is to deny yourself, right?
Right.
To present
And,
yourself. Go
right.
ahead.
And also with that, it's letting you know that you can have your food sitting out overnight, let it be at room temperature, and you still can eat it.
Mm-hmm. Um, when you deal with you know, um, again, being set apart, denying yourself, all those things, you know, that's just a part of being set apart. Period.
Done.
Being holy. Period. You know, when it comes to the Lord's Sabbath day, we know that we have rules to govern the Sabbath, right? Now, your everyday life, as far as being set apart, is what's going to lead you to being set apart on the Lord's Sabbath. Go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 3 for me, because we'll deal with that denying yourself, making yourself a living sacrifice, right? Wisdom of Solomon chapter 3. When you get there, start at verse you can start at verse just start at verse 1.
Okay, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 1. But the souls of the righteous are in the hand of the Lord, and there shall no torment touch them. In the sight of the unwise, they seemed to die, and their departure is taken for misery,
Go ahead.
and their going from us to the utter destruction, to be utter destruction, but they are in peace.
Go ahead.
But though they be punished in the sight of men, yet is their hope full of immortality.
Uh-huh.
And having been a little chastened, they shall be greatly rewarded. For God proven them and found them worthy for him. As gold in the furnace have he tried them and received them as a burnt offering.
How are we going to be received as a burnt offering unto the Most High? Because we presented ourselves as living sacrifices unto him. How are we living sacrifices? By living that holy, set apart life, denying ourselves. We could go out on Friday night like everybody else, get drunk, party, revel, fornicate, but we don't do that. That's part of being set apart. We're denying ourselves rather than going out, and having barbecues on the Lord's Sabbath day and doing all sorts of wickedness. We're not doing that. We're not doing those things. We deny ourselves those things, right? People going to the mall on Saturday, they catching the what was that thing? Who remembers them old Foley commercials, them red apple sales? We're not doing that. We're not going out and catching them sales, man, and buying on the Lord's Sabbath day. We're denying ourselves. That's what sets you apart. That's what sanctifies you from everybody else. And so again, you've been in this faith and you say you know the Most High. If you know the Lord, you would know these things, right? So You know, I hope that answered your question, because I felt like you started to scoff there towards the end because we weren't answering it as fast as you wanted us to. But hey, you know, we had to get some of the other fluff out of the way first, because you was kind of, scripture say let all things be done decently and in order, and I just kind of felt like you were a little bit out of order. So. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and close up shop for today. And if you've sent questions in, we'll start those questions off at the top of our broadcast next Sabbath, most high willing. If the Lord say the same. So with that,
also, Shalom, Sister Tasha. Shalom, shalom. I know you tuned in late. Anybody else we missed? And Babylon Doom, 12 tribes. Shalom. Hey, Khan, you're right, D. Miller. Open rebuke is better than secret love. And ain't no love lost for the sister or any brother that we have to, we have to rebuke with the word of the Most High. But it's not so much a rebuke; it's more so of a correction. So, and that's all basically what it is. And also, Sister Cherokee, if you got any questions throughout the week, put it inside put it in the email. aochouston@gmail.com. And questions will be answered. And that goes for everyone. So with that, I say Shabbat Shalom. May the Most High bless and keep each and every one of you. And may the blessings of the Most High rain down upon you as a dew from heaven. I say Shalom.
All right, Shalom.